gravely wounded.
Hey everybody, Horseman here, and welcome to the official release date of Torchlight 3. Today is that day where Torchlight 3 went live, and it was actually kind of an exciting moment. I mean, I've been working on testing this game since 2017, so it feels really good that this game has actually finally gone live. A whole bunch of players came in to play the game, and it has been fantastic. But that is not the purpose of me making this video today, okay? So as you know, I've been part of early access, the alpha test, the beta test when it was still Frontiers, and everything like that. So I've had a bit of a head start, especially because the last, week I've been able to play. And in doing so, I mean, I've just been playing hard and fast and just, going through the things that I'm already familiar with, which is why I was able to get to 60 so fast. Because, again, I'm already familiar with the game. I'm already familiar with the mechanics. There wasn't much aside from Act 3 for me to actually learn new, which takes time and stuff like that, especially since I was also playing a familiar character. I already knew what I wanted to build out. So anyway, that being said, this video is going to be all about my build and how it performs and how you can also make it if you decide to go Railmaster. Now, what I did here is made some modifications from the previous video. And there was also a bunch of things that were wrong on my previous video, so for that, I really want to apologize. The reason for that, the microphone wasn't working when I recorded. Well, I should say I didn't have it enabled when I recorded it. And also... Ooh, I get some contracts? No? Okay. And also, I had just woken up, was tired, and I said a few things wrong. It's typically the case when I do things after I had already recorded it. I never quite say what I wanted to say to begin with. All right, so enough of that. So this is the Railmaster. As you can see on the left-hand side here, I am level 60 on Ridiculous mode, and here are my abilities, why I chose what I chose, and why I modified what I modified, and I'm also going to show you a brief demonstration apart from what I had already showed prior to this video. But anyway. So, the first thing that I said I was not going to do in my previous video was beef up this build train ability. And the reason why I said anybody would is because of that plus 20 damage to the conductor skills. Which, learning that I did have a bunch of extra ability points, especially after factoring in gear, I absolutely decided to do this, get that extra 20% because it will directly affect all other conductor skills, in which these are going to be my primary sources of damage on the enemy. So we have the shotgun car, and we also have flamethrower car. But with that being said, the build train, it is a necessary ability. You'll notice that I put it in my 7 block. I put it as far away as possible because it's not something that I'm going to be spamming on a regular basis. You'll also notice that I am still using my basic attack because basic attacks are fairly important in this game. There are some abilities and some passives that get built upon the basic attack. So I did like having it because despite the fact that my shotgun car and my flamethrower car are going to be my primary sources of DPS. All right, anyway. So with that, I put 4 points into my build train ability, which gave me the tier 2 bonus, the 20% to conductor skills, as well as that 25% main turret passive attack speed. So it's going to attack a little bit faster. And then I also got to bonus skill points from my various gear, which ended up boosting my damage for that up by 25%. Now again, this is a decent enough ability in terms of damage, but it's hardly noticeable. My shotgun car is probably one of my more favorite abilities because of because of its range, and then once you get its tier 3 bonus, the cone AoE effect is quite large as well, and it only gets larger the farther it goes. There is obviously a range limit. I couldn't tell you in meters or miles or whatever it is, but I'd say you can shoot pretty well from about across your screen. And but if your train is off screen, I would not expect to hit the targets that you were intending. So you got to make sure that your train is following you. All right, my shotgun car, it is obviously going to be doing your regular blasts passively, but its active shot shoots a single large slug that pierces through enemies for 893% weapon damage. And then with that tier 3 bonus, it's going to fire 3 of those things. It's going to go through entire mobs, and it looks beautiful. I mean, you can just see numbers flying all over the place, especially when you get into those gauntlet type of Fazeers cards, which is going to be part of the end game stuff. And you'll see some of that in the demonstration. But there's also the tier 1 and tier 2 bonuses, which gives more attack speed, and it's also going to give 65% damage to my pet, which is not a big deal, especially when you start getting into the end game stuff. Your pet's probably not going to be around all that much unless you have different collars at your ready, because depending on the element that is going to be showcased, you might be in electro type of map, but your pet is immune to fire. So the best way to really do that is either to have all those collars at the ready, or just understand that your pet's not going to be doing a crap ton of damage. And honestly, it's not. Whether it's there or not, it's not going to be doing a ton of damage. But I do have this at level 8 with some bonus levels to get me all the way to 10, and that is going to give me a 45% increase to my damage with Shotgun Car. And then, of course, any other passive bonuses from the modifiers on the equipment that I'm using is also going to enhance the amount of damage that I'm putting out with one of my primary damage abilities. The other primary damage ability is going to come from my Flamethrower car. My Flamethrower car is a lot of fun. Passively, it's going to be shooting out some flames, but actively, it's also going to shoot out a bunch of fireballs, which is pretty cool. The distance on these things is not very great, as you can obviously imagine, but the damage is pretty heavy. Its AoE is pretty wide, and it just absolutely demolishes everything that gets in its way. Especially when you couple it with some extra minion damage, you couple it with some modifiers from your equipment, and this thing is going to just roll people over. The best thing that you can do is make sure that you utilize both the shotgun car and the flamethrower car when you have maximum amount of endurance, which you can see in right here. See how that's all filled up? When it's all filled up, you can use it and do maximum amount of damage. Do you absolutely have to? No, because until you get certain legendaries, that endurance bar right there is going to be shared among your other abilities, such as Lantern Flash, your flamethrower car, shotgun car, and also even your blasting charge. In this case, in my particular build. Now, granted, if you're using a different build, different abilities, it's going to be that endurance bar is also going to be shared and used up by other abilities as well. And it's not just use one circle at a time. It's going to use the whole thing, and you have to rebuild it. All right. So, shotgun car, I decided to only put 5 points into this due to the amount of equipment bonuses that I have that gave me an extra 5 bonus levels to my flamethrower car. So that freed up a whole bunch of bonuses for me to be able to kind of mess around with. Right now, there is nothing in place that allows me to say go 15 over 10 to get that much more damage. And but from what I understand, that is getting looked into. So until then, I have a little bit more freedom with the build that I want to make as opposed to what I should make. All right. So the flamethrower damage, I'm getting 45% extra damage with the points that I have dumped into it. The tier 1 bonus gives me a 25% Flamethrower passive attack speed, so it's going just like the shotgun car. It's going to be throwing out them flames a little bit faster. The tier 2 bonus gives me a +10 to relic energy charge rate, so that means that my relic energy, the ones that are fueling abilities such as my Poison Nova and my Miasma, which are kind of key to this build as well, are going to be filling up that much faster when I am in combat. Tier 3 bonus is going to give me an activation of my Flamethrower card that will add 8 fireballs that deals the skill's current weapon damage. So I'm doing about 505% of that weapon damage, so it's pretty good. It is insane, especially when you use all of that endurance bar in order to use that on that active skill. Which again, I'll show you some legendary passives that I have currently in my legendarium that make it so that bonus is used all the time. Next up, I'm going to skip over the Relic and go straight into the Slammer category and show you the 3 abilities and how I built these out and why I built them out the way I did before I get into the Relic stuff. So, Blasting Charge. The obvious reason why I'd want to use this, and this is something that I regretted not really testing out to the fullest capacity during the test, is that it does make using this on enemies, it makes them vulnerable to a certain amount of extra damage. So throwing out the Blasting Charge already deals damage. You throw out 1 stick of dynamite that explodes on enemies in a fair amount of AoE radius, but then when you have full endurance, you're going to throw out 3 of those things with very little to, if any, overlap in that radius in order to get maximum amount of AoE just to utterly destroy these big groups. But you're only doing 103% damage because the main reason why you're using this is not necessarily to use it as a damage dealer, but to ensure that the enemies that you're attacking are taking 20% extra, or I'm sorry, 20% vulnerability for the Blasting Charge. So in other words, you're throwing this out and you're making them vulnerable to damage, which is great. You're just making them weaker. I did not dump too many extra points in here because the damage reduction in melee combat, yes, I am taking melee damage, but with my other abilities that I have here for damage mitigation, it was not really worth the points to dump into this and get more damage mitigation. I'd rather go more on the offensive there. And the Blasting Charge now unleashes a second blast in front of the first. That's all fine and good. But it's not my main damage dealer. My point of using this is to make the enemies weak, do a little bit of damage, and then follow up with my shotgun car and my flame car in order to really push out high numbers of damage. Alright, so then we got Hammer Spin. Hammer Spin is going to be my primary movement skill. It's the get out of dodge skill. So if I'm ever in a pickle, I can use that in order to get on out of there. So I put 6 points in here. There's no bonuses to that, but I do have a piece of equipment in my Legendarium that gives me bonuses to the skill itself by giving me an extra charge and also does more damage and reduces the amount of cooldown. So the Hammer Spin cooldown, the more points you put into it, the quicker you're going to be able to get more movement skill charges. The Tier 1 bonus gives me a 25% movement speed boost after cast for 6 seconds, meaning that I could, use it, get somewhere quickly, and then continue to run, which is fantastic. The Tier 2 bonus gives me an extra 10% damage to my Relic skills. So again, I really like using my Relic skills. They do a lot of good things for me, especially the Poison Nova, which is going to give me a bit of a shield and do damage. And my Miasma will put out a toxic aura around me as I use it, so it's going to give me some more damage to that. But I didn't feel it was necessary to continue on with that unless I absolutely have to later on. The last Slammer skill is going to be Lantern Flash. This is one of those that's going to put a burn on the enemies, doing a pretty decent amount of damage. And then with the skill modifiers that are found on equipment, that duration can last even longer, meaning that you're going to be putting out that much more damage. So the Lantern Flash damage is going to get increased by the more points you put into it, and the tier bonuses are going to do things like you see there. It's going to blind them for a little bit. Yeah, and it says 1 second. Okay, it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but that 1 second can also give you the opportunity to do increased amount of damage if you have modifiers to say that you do damage on slowed, frozen, or blind enemies, which do exist. And 1 second, like I said, doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it's enough to get enemies stunned, to prevent an enemy attack or a spell cast or something like that as well. Tier 2 bonus, plus 65% damage versus stunned, blinded, or slowed targets. There you go. So it helps out. So I do use this quite a bit as well. I mean, again, it's not my primary damage dealer, but it is a skill that I absolutely love using, especially when I go in there, put that vulnerability on them, put that lantern flash on them, and just wreck them with the shotgun car and the flamethrower car. Okay. All right. Next up, I'm going to go over Bane. Now with the third skill tree in the form of Relic. Relic has been a hot topic of discussion and controversy for not only how we acquire them, but what they mean to the character, and the fact that we can't change them out, and we should know exactly what we're getting ourselves into at the character select screen. I don't agree with that. For a lot of reasons. I also don't agree with the fact that this, if you want to make a pet build, this is basically the only relic that you can use. So, but that's fine. I'm also using this on the sharpshooter because of the fact that I like building pet type builds, and especially with the sharpshooter. And this is great for having. I mean, you cannot ignore the amount of minion damage that you get from this relic. But that's neither here nor there. I'm supposed to talk about the build. Okay, so you can see where I put the points, but the order in which that I put the points helped me as I was leveling. So in other words, even though that the tier 1 abilities were not available to me, or were available to me immediately, I did not dump points into those until I had already got the other abilities that I wanted and the other passives that I wanted. Because this was kind of like a, if you have extra points, put it here. And that's exactly what I did. So the first thing I did was I wanted to make sure I had Poison Nova. And even so, I went from 1 all the way to 60 and only had 1 point in here. And it wasn't until later on that I started putting more points in there. Because the damage that I'm doing off of this was significant in the beginning, but as I leveled, that damage wasn't as significant compared to my other abilities, and therefore it was less of a priority. And even now, with that 35% extra damage, I'm not putting things in the grave just by pushing a button like I am with other abilities. So I didn't focus on it. What I did want it to do was give me an extra give me extra defense, especially when I was in sticky situations or surrounded by mobs. It gave me a shield. So you can see here that not only does it do damage, but it also increases my my total defense by 50%. So dumping points into this is going to give it more damage. The tier 1 bonus is going to knock back enemies, which can be good, especially if you get surrounded. There is no clipping through enemies. If you're stuck, you're stuck. And a tier 2 bonus, Poison Nova's defense buff, also makes you immune to all debuffs. So you can't be poisoned, set on fire, things like that. You can take damage, like initial damage from fire. If you're standing in fire, you will die, okay? But it's not going to put like a burning debuff on you or something like that, okay? And the tier 3 bonus, Poison Nova missiles now pierce targets. That definitely did not seem important to me compared to other tier 3 bonuses. So that is the reason why I didn't go for it. And then I had also put in 1 point in Spread of Death initially. Spawns poison bolts around you that deal 45% weapon damage when killing or critically hitting poisoned enemies. And that is the main reason why I didn't dump a whole lot of points into it immediately, because the chance for me to poison an enemy based off of just Poison Nova alone was very minimal. And since I'm leveling, I'm going through weapons like a revolving door. Get something, kill something, get that one. Okay, so I didn't often have poison on my weapons to be able to trigger this, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But I just had it there just in case I got into longer fights and I succeeded at poisoning something, it would do just a little bit of extra damage here and there. The big kicker here was this miasma. This was the game changer for the entire build because of that tier 3 bonus. Minions deal 100% more damage while miasma is active. And it really makes a difference, especially on that shotgun car and the flamethrower car. So the cloud that surrounds you is going to do 175% weapon damage. So as you can tell, almost every single one of these damaging abilities is based off of your weapon damage, that base value. Which is why in a lot of cases you're going to see folks with like a green weapon that has high amounts of damage on it, despite the fact that they could be using a legendary that has good passives, because that raw damage is coming from your weapon damage. While the buff is active, you and your nearby allies deal 25% more damage, and your defenses are increased by 50%. So this is also both a offensive and defensive ability that is going to be critical to survivability later on. Miasma damage goes up by 45% the more points you go into it. Tier 1 bonus, summon a spiderling every second while miasma is active. So as it's active, especially if you have a full relic energy bar, you are just spitting out spiders left and right, and they do damage, and guess what? They also reap the benefits as pets and minions. Or in this case, minions. Tier 2 bonus, take away... now the relic energy cost from miasma has been reduced by 25%. So that means that bar, which when you activate miasma, that relic energy bar will slowly decrease over time. Now it's going to go even slower. So that means more miasma time is up. And as spiders die, more spiders will be spawned. And you have more opportunities to lay down covering fire from your train. Tier 3 bonus. Minions deal 100% more damage while miasma is active. Absolutely beautiful. Okay? Puppet Master is also going to further increase your minion damage by 25%. 5 point per level that you increase it by. So again, this is another must. The whole point of this is to dump as much bonuses to minion damage as possible, because that minion damage is directly... going to affect your shotgun and your flamethrower car, and that's what's important. Energizer, relic energy charge rate gets increased 5 points per level, and this is what's going to help you refill that energy bar. Minimal downtime. So that is it for the core abilities of my build. Okay, and also the reason why I put the points in here. So in this particular ability tree, I just went ham. Okay, as many points as I had, it went in here, of course. Now the big difference being that spiders, 8-legged allies, was the last thing that I chose and started filling up. Basically, it was I got extra points. I've already got this other points where I want them to be. And the reason why this is nice, and the reason why I didn't take it immediately, is again because I didn't have an ability that would poison stuff. Because this would have been great if I was using Spectral Spider, because it could poison things. But it's not. I wasn't poisoning things on a regular basis in order to make this useful in the beginning. So basically, if when I hit poison enemies, it has a chance to summon more spiders. Okay, I can have up to 5 of them, and that damage gets increased as I level it up. So they're useful. Don't get me wrong, they are useful, especially in game where I am now. Very useful, but just was not a priority of mine as I was leveling up. Okay, same thing with Poison Nova. I didn't start dumping in points into it until I started realizing that I had points left over, and even then, it wasn't even until later levels, 40s, 50s, that I started putting points in there. Okay. So that's all 3 trees. Next, I'm going to get into Legendarium, because this is also one of those key things. Unfortunately, this build is fairly gear dependent, okay? Meaning that certain pieces of gear, certain combinations of gear is going to make this more effective. Not saying that you couldn't build something very similar without having any of this gear, like all blues. What I am saying is that these things really, really help, okay? Most importantly, Doom Pipe and Shotgunner's Shield are going to be the most beneficial most beneficial as additions in the Legendarium. Shotgunner's Shield and Doom Pipe kind of do the same exact thing, but for different abilities. One is for the Shotgun car, one is for the Flamethrower car. And that's what I'm using them for. And basically what they do is that always gains the endurance bonus. Every time I activate it, whether I have an endurance, a full endurance bar or not, it's going to activate like I have a full endurance bar. But it gets better. It will also not use the endurance if that endurance bar is full, meaning that whenever it's full, I can use it on other things like my lantern flash or my blasting cap without having to worry about whether or not I'm using it on my primary DPS abilities. Same thing with the Doom Pipe, but for the Flamethrower car. Absolutely fantastic. I was so thrilled. You saw my previous video when I got this. I was just like, woohoo! So that was great, 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 great stuff. Centrifugal Demolisher. I still don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It deals 25% more damage on my hammer spin. Gains 1 additional charge, so now I have 3 movement ability charges, and it also has a decreased cooldown time by 25%. So that just means that I can get out of dodge a little bit faster and more often. Now that might change. This isn't one of those absolutely gotta have things that in here. I just haven't found anything that's better yet. For my pet, it doesn't matter what pet I'm using pretty much the same thing, and this might change the higher I get into Fazeers. I might end up getting defensive posture later on, but right now it's all about damage. So the aura, Deadlier Strikes, grants the 15 increased critical strike chance to nearby allies. I also have Pass the Gas, which just it does some damage, and it could fear enemies if necessary. It's honestly not that big of a deal. Anything really coming from the pet is not that big of a deal. Screeching Stun cries out, dealing 330% weapon damage and stuns enemies for a second. Again, it's not a very long duration, but it's enough to possibly stop a cast. And Battle Cry, all allies gain 25% increased damage for 10 seconds, which is really nice. So that's the build. Sorta. Let's go ahead and get into my gear. In my previous... Ooh, I need to enchant. In my previous video, I opened up all those legendary bags. By the way, those are all gone now. We cannot get legendary bags anymore. But bags do now have a chance to drop legendaries. A very small chance, but a chance. And from what I understand, legendary drop rates have been increased. So hopefully you'll see that in this video. I only got 3 legendaries from 1 to 60 and up to level 20. Level 29 of Fazeers dungeon. So drop rates were really bad, but at the same time, though, we were relying too much on getting those legendary bags and farming fame for it, and that just wasn't fun. So I'm glad they made those changes. So the weapon that I'm using primarily because of the damage that it's putting out, 6,646. That is the highest damage that I've seen so far, and it also gives me 3 levels to my Flamethrower card, which is why I was able to kind of finagle the points a little bit and add them elsewhere. It gives me some good amount of critical hit chance, and that those are really the main things that I pulled from this and why I've used this as opposed to anything else, because I don't use pound, so I don't care whether or not I gain shock charges. The other key thing here is the Cosmic Helm. So you can have any other 3 pieces of the Cosmic set, but the Cosmic Helm is something that is absolutely needed. So you only need 3 to get the Cosmic set bonus, which in this case I get a skill level to Conductor skills, and then the Cosmic set adds another skill to all Conductor skills, not just one of them, but to all of them, okay? And that is very helpful. The shoulders, again, I don't use Arachnid Assault, so it's not that big of a deal. The Cosmic Gloves, use any train car active skill, and the next melee attack within 5 seconds causes a flame burst. So, can I benefit from this? Absolutely. The Cosmic set allows me to get a flame burst is caused on an additional attack, so that means instead of just one attack, I can now make that flame burst on 2 attacks, as long as I do it within 5 seconds, I guess. I'm not really sure. Have I really been able to pay attention to how much damage this adds? Not really, because again, anything that survives my flamethrower car and my shotgun car, yeah, I'm going to need a lot more work than just doing a couple of flame bursts on the target. So, good amount of defense. I need to go and enchant it, so I'll do that before I do a Fazeers dungeon. Cosmic Boots, basic attack, gain a seismic charge, and after 10 charges, it'll send a shockwave dealing 400% weapon damage. Okay, Cosmic Set allows me to gain twice as many seismic charges, but here's the thing. I haven't really seen this go off, and to be honest, I haven't paid much attention because I've got typically looking at a whole bunch of other things, and I'm not looking to see how many charges I have or how to actually spend it. So, I like the set, I really do, but I'm not that good of a gamer to pay attention to these kind of things. Cosmic Pants is all about the Venomous Maw, which as of yesterday, Venomous Maw is still broken, so that's why you won't see too many people using it. It's a decent enough ability on paper, but from what I understand is completely broken, doesn't work, so nobody takes it right now. So hopefully we'll get a fix there. In this case, it gives me some extra bonus to my Lay Tracks lead car, but you also notice a level 58 item, not level 60. But that's fine, because honestly, I mean, my boots prior to yesterday or the day before, I was using level 20 boots at level 60, so whatever. Alright, token of rapid bartending, token of invigoration, and my Dryad's neckband. So, I don't really care, again, too much about what I have here, because I don't feel that the pet adds that much to where you need to take serious consideration, but that's just me. I could be completely wrong. While I'm here, let me go ahead and do this real quick. Go here, send the pet to town, make sure that this is clear. I've got a good amount of all that. And we'll do a dungeon real quick. I say real quick. We'll just do a dungeon. And I just hope I don't die. So let's see what we got. Status uniques. Okay. This is the most painless one. All champions spawned are unique quality. So when I talk about Fazeers dungeon cards, this is what I'm talking about. So Glimmering Descent uniques, all champions spawned are unique quality. That means that I won't get any uniques, legendaries, or anything like that, or the elite packs. Everything's going to have a kind of a greenish circle underneath them, and there will be singular targets, which does make things a little bit easier. Get a good amount of fame from them, a decent amount of loot, so it doesn't matter. They're just going to die really fast anyway. And Relic energy regeneration is up by 50%, so that means I get to go into Miasma that much more often. Woohoo! So anybody that may have been on the fence about this game, I can totally understand why. I mean, there's definitely a lot of things that need to be worked out, but for what it's worth, this game is a lot of fun. It's hard to get through the first few levels, just like any ARPG, but once you do, you know, it's good times. Even if you just get through the story and just have a good time with it, whatever. Summon that train. Let's go. So I probably won't be talking a whole lot, lucky y'all. Vulnerability and blast them. So I'm not using my Miasma just yet because, one, I have to wait for my Relic energy bar to fill up, and you can see that it is filling up really quick while I am in battle. And I will be taking the time to mine, because things like Ember Cores and what are they called? Comet Fragments are something that I need in order to build fancy decorations. Got stuck. Shoot. Almost dead. Alright, so here's going to be that unique mod that I was talking about. Go ahead and activate my Miasma, Lantern Flash, Spinny, Shooty, and do my poison thing, and get all the trash out of there. Ooh, I got 2 uniques. So that's cool.
go here.
And done and done. And believe me, when you're playing ridiculous mode, those things tend to take a while, okay? And now that, you know, the higher level that you get, if I were to do just like a regular Mapworks dungeon, those things would not last very long at all. They already don't, you know, but the higher level that you get into Fazeers, the more difficult the enemies get, bigger health pools, things like that, more defense, mitigation, things like that. So that's why they don't go down quite as fast if I was doing a plain old level 16 map. Go through, get some defense up, say hi to them, pick up the stuff. That dude just tried to rush and just got blasted. Now, my endurance bar is full. I would prefer to use my lantern flash and rather than my blast charge, because the blast charge, I'm typically trying to hit one enemy in particular, whatever has a flashy thing underneath it. So it's not that big of a deal if I'm not using the endurance on my lantern. I'm sorry, on my blasting charge. I'd rather use it on the lantern flash. But I have a tendency to push buttons, so that doesn't always happen. Here we go. So activate, lantern flash, and shooty. That guy did not take a lot of damage. Let him die.
Your health
I
is
almost
low.
died. You know from what? Alright, so this time I don't have my miasma. Oh, I have a little bit. Alright, so he went down a lot faster. Hopefully I can get a legendary. I'd love to see a legendary drop. I haven't seen a legendary drop in a long time. And I'm told that the legendary drop rates have increased, especially now that they got rid of
You can't pass that.
the legendary drop. Oh, there's two. Three. Okay. Die. Nice. Okay, still no legendary. And that's right, just throw that blast charge right into a rock. Right. And that's how it's done. Start mining, fool! What are you doing? Wow. Am I no longer allowed to do combat? Is that what the deal is? Alright, so I'm out of combat, right? Nope, it's bugged. Alright, so I'll need to report that later. Oh, I would love to see how this is going to perform later on. I'll definitely have to keep you guys in tune with how it performs later on. If you don't get there before me, which is a good possibility, because I am also working on a sharpshooter right now.
You can't carry anymore.
Carry anything else? Oh, did I get anything good? 68-19 for a staff. It's not bad. Don't want to die. So let's look at that. So it's pretty cool and all. I'll hold on to that. Might end up using it. I'm not going to be using a lot of this stuff. Maybe that chest. I didn't see where that chest was. Where is it at? Was there a chest? A blue chest? Guess not. Okay, so send you back to town. So let me do this one? No? Come on.
Your pet has returned.
Good. So yes, one of the tags that I have on my pet enables him to come back like really quick. So normally it's like a 2-hour wait for your pet to come back. Did I say 2 hours or did I say 2 minute? 2-minute wait, not 2 hour. That'd be stupid.
You can't cast that here.
Sick. See, that dude didn't last very long at all. That's the way it should be. But look how many spiders I got. One thing I do wish is that I wish I can turn off my miasma. So let me go ahead and fight a little bit and get this worked up. So I'll have something going on with the boss, because the boss is like right there. The longer that this lasts, I'm gonna play this out a little bit, fill up that bar. And alright, come on, I wanna see a legendary. I wanna see a legendary drop. Hopefully I get a legendary drop. Train is out. Vulnerability, Lantern Flash, Miasma, Shooty, and he is almost dead. And dead. If I didn't spin the wrong direction. That's what I'm talking about. So, again, I'm on ridiculous difficulty. I am loving this build, to say the least. And if you decide that you want to try it, I hope you do too. I love the train gimmick. I'm sorry, but I did not think that I was going to like it, but I really do like it. It's, especially with the tracks. You know, tracks just drive me nuts. But you know what? You get so used to it, you don't even realize that they're there anymore. But I really enjoy this character. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please throw it a like. And subscribe for more, because as I continue playing this game, you're sure to see some additional videos later on as I progress through Fazeers. You know, I'll let you know if this build is still viable, or if I've had to make some tweaks on more defense and things like that. Because from what I understand, you need some pretty hefty defense in order to make it, and the gear itself doesn't really get much better. So that means tweaking will have to be done. But certainly this will get you started. Certainly this will help you start getting the gear that you need in order to be successful. All right. Well, that is it. Thank you for watching if you have lasted this long, and I hope to see you again. Until then, Horseman out.
damage.